Hi, and welcome to Real Trail Talk. I am Donovan D'Souza from The Long Ways Better.
And I'm Mark Pybus from The Life of Pi. Welcome to episode 77. We have, back by popular demand, Rod Annear from DBCA. Welcome, Rod.
G'day. Yeah, I'm not sure how popular, but there you go.
At the moment, I don't think DBCA is too popular around Perth, but I'm sure as we get into the winter and the burn-offs lessen, people will forgive you. So we've got Rod back because Rod is a keen cyclist, mountain biker, bike packer, extraordinaire. So we're going to talk about the next section of the Munda Biddi that we have on the calendar, which is Jarrahwood to Manjimup. So this is one you just cycled on the weekend, Don, as a refresher.
Yeah, so it wasn't meant to be a refresher. I was planning to go down from on the weekend that I was going to go, and then I scheduled it for this weekend, and then I went, that's the section we're talking about. How perfect.
Perfect. And when was the last time you cycled this section, Rod?
It was October last year. Yep. So yeah, we did a trip Jarrahwood to Pemberton. We picked up with my wife Sharon, so it was great. I love this part of the trail.
Yeah. Often on Rod's Instagram, it's always around this area, around Nannup on the Munda Biddi. So, I mean, we've already talked about Jarrahwood and the Nannup campsite in town. What are your thoughts on this particular campsite, Rod?
Yeah, look, I think like most people, it kind of seems like a bit of an odd location for the campsite. But you got to go back to the context when the trail was built, and at the time, the community there were really keen to have a campsite in town, and so that kind of pushed that over the line. But yeah, it's a bit weird coming into Jarrahwood, and I think the distances in that part of the trail often see people maybe stop there for lunch or for a snack and break and move on. And of course, you've got the great little house in town there in Jarrahwood, which the community house, which people often stay in. So yeah, I'm not sure how many people overnight there.
I know, because it's advertised as you come in, and it's like $20 a night. So
yeah, it's pretty cheap.
If you look at the campsite, you kind of, well, $20 probably worth it.
Yeah, and you get a shower and yeah. But yeah, look, it's the same as all the other campsites. The shelter's beautiful. It's just a different setting, and I guess it kind of if you've done lots of the rest of the trail, you maybe think, oh, that's a bit different. But if you're kind of new to it, it's just another part of the trail.
And the first section leading out of Jarrahwood, if you're just stopping in for lunch, it's great because it's all downhill into Nannup, so you can enjoy the rest of your day, and all on fantastic single rail trail, or for most of it anyway.
Yeah, probably one of the best quality, like entire from the start of your day to the end of the day. If you're saying from Jarrahwood to Nannup, that's just like an outstanding section of the track, I reckon. Yeah,
it's you can just put your head down and go there if you want to. But yeah, of course, being an old railway line, it's had the sleepers pulled out and smoothed out, so you got a good grade the whole way. It's surprising along there, though, the amount of wildlife there is. Every time I've gone along there's big monitors, always heaps of roos. Last time we saw a carpet python along there. So yeah, there's always been wildlife along that section, so that's kind of nice too.
Because this was day 2 for us of a weekend trip. I mean, even though it is downhill and fairly easy, we stopped a lot to take photos and the different old rail bridges that are no longer in use.
Yeah.
There's just lots to see along what is an old railway line. Yeah,
because I mean, if you look at it on the map, it's pretty straight, and you might think it's boring, but it's actually got a lot of things to see. Particularly that particular bit that goes over the creek, and when it gets flooded, and you have like all the trees and the coming out of the water, and that property just off to the right. It's a really nice spot.
Yeah, no, it's a good bit of trail, and like you say, all downhill, which is good. And I think every time I've done it, I've started in Donnybrook, so it's been kind of that second half of the day, and nice to have a cruisy downhill into town.
Although there is a tiny bit of very gradual uphill, and you don't really notice it until maybe you're about a few k's and you go, oh, actually it is slightly uphill, but it doesn't last very long. No,
it's a good trail, good bit of trail.
And a bit of railway history as well, with Cambrai sidings. There's some information boards, and is it Barrabuck Pool that's not too far away as well as a side trip?
Yeah, well, you've got you can always pair it up with the old Timberline Trail, and I think this part of the Munda Biddi also doubles as the Sidings Rail Trail. So you've got that out and back loop that I think you were talking about earlier, Donovan, which you can do, which is pretty nice as well.
I noticed on the Timberline Trail that there are markers for the Munda Biddi on that as well as on the other one, even though the Munda Biddi officially goes straight down the Sidings Trail. Do you know what the reason for that is?
Look, I'd only be guessing, and my guess would be that at one point there'd been diversion, and the markers from the diversion have never been pulled out. So thanks, there's another thing to do tomorrow.
Okay. There is a section of the trail that I can see where the Timberline joins on to the Sidings Trail, and the section south of there looks like it's been very heavily burnt in the last few years, so that's probably
that'd be
a
my
good
guess.
Yeah.
And look, I guess on that you do get that a little bit all the way along the trail where there's been diversions or there's a planned diversion, and often there's the reason for the plan for the diversion might be for a burn off for a fire, might be for some bridge work or any number of other things. And the guys often go in and put the diversions in ready, so the day that it's going to happen, it's easy to make the transition. So sometimes if you get a bit confused, if there's markers that you see and you go, hang on, what are they there for? It may be a diversion to come, or it may have been a previous diversion. That shouldn't happen. They should come out straight away, but sometimes they don't.
And the ride approaching Nannup's actually quite pretty with all the farmland as you come in, and then crossing over the bridge, and you get to see the different flood levels, which always amazes me at the 1982 level.
Yeah.
Twice as much. And Nannup is a track town. As we spoke off air about this, they're really embracing cycling. It's already a fairly popular spot for both road cyclists and touring cyclists.
Yeah, look, Nannup have done a great job in being really clear about what they want to be, I think. And I think you've got some people who live in the town, people who promote events, and businesses who've moved to town who see that as the future, or part of the future anyway, of Nannup. So, yeah, I think we'll see some exciting things. There's a kind of a movement between a few of those towns in the Blackwood Valley to create a marketing entity called the Blackwood Bike Park. So keep your eyes peeled for that. I think they may have something on social media, but they're kind of looking at marketing a whole area as a place to come ride your bike, whether it's on-road, off-road, mountain bike, Munda Biddi, gravel, whatever.
Because advantage of that area is it's very, very hilly and also pretty. So cyclist dream. Yeah,
and one of the really good things about it for the on-road or even the gravel stuff is there's not lots of other traffic. So you've got some pretty good roads there where you're not going to encounter lots of other traffic. So for just your casual cyclist or for the events, it's much, much easier to organise. So yeah, look, I think it's got some good things, and of course there's a stack of mountain bike trails being put in. Tank 7, I think it is, out in the Pines at the moment. So yeah, that'll happen in the next, all open up in the next couple of months.
I have to say it's a town that I hadn't really visited much before last year, and cycling through here, this was sort of, I think, one of the real nice surprises of the trail, because it's not on the main, Route 1 down the middle, so you don't see it as often, and you have to actually go there to go to it, and it's actually a particularly lovely town with a lot of potential and a lot of realized potential as well. I feel like the people are getting behind making it a very great tourist town. Yeah,
look, it's got lots of character. Like a lot of these small timber towns, it's had a pretty hard time transitioning from timber milling to something else. There's always been some farming there, but you're pretty much a lot of it's surrounded by bush and all the big pine plantations. So you've still got that pine timber industry, but the native forest timber industry kind of, tailed off a lot. And so, the town had to change, and it's chosen for part of that transition to be a tourism town. And some lovely old buildings, and they have a lot of events. So yeah, it's a good little town.
And Yeah, for me, it's halfway between my parents' place and Pemberton, and it's the route I always take. And I try and stop in, but recently I've made a real effort because I just enjoy Nannup quite a lot. And the tiny tea shop is fantastic. The lady who runs it is just really passionate about her tea, and I've now switched to ordering online from her.
Yeah, absolutely. I think she tried to, not without saying it specifically, offer Alyssa a job.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I think it's it is like a lot of small towns where there's a whole mix of people at different stages in that transition, and so you get a bit of a patchy kind of experience sometimes. Like, most people are right onto it. You're here visiting my town. I want you to have a great experience. Versus, I always shut my shop at 12 o'clock. Therefore, I'm shutting my shop at 12 o'clock sometimes. So, yeah, look, I think they'll go through that transition. I know there's a new craft beer place about to open there as well, and there's the pizza joint that's open. So, yeah, it's got great things going for it.
And a cycling cafe as well, which you don't normally see in the southwest.
Yeah.
What's it called?
Mellow
Velo.
Yeah. So and that's used as the base for Seven gravel race, which is on next weekend. Really good event. They've got nearly 1,000 competitors this year, so it's going to be a pretty big event. And they bill that as Australia's premier gravel cycling event. So they've got some pretty big names racing it, all sorts of, road, mountain bike, whatever. So yeah, good spot.
Yeah, one of those names is Rod Annear.
Yeah, except I'm not one of the good riders. I'm one of the ones that collapses over the line just before the cutoff.
Yeah, the Lantern Rouge.
That's it.
So leaving Nannup, I mean, Rod, you've already spoken about some of the great riding roads that are around this area, and unfortunately this is the start of a very long stretch comparatively of road riding on the Munda Biddi. It's about 15 k's to start the day.
Yeah,
it's not a bad bit of road though, so I actually really quite like the East Nannup Road, I think, that you head out on, and you hit the first bit of karri forest. So in between the farmlands you get a couple of pockets of karri and some beautiful gullies with water usually running, whichever time of year it is, but winter and springtime is quite magnificent. But yeah, it's a bit challenging hills, so you don't want to eat too much. Don't eat all the chips in the Parmigiana the night before, or if you do, you're going to burn them off anyway as you head up the hill before you hit Gold Gully Road.
Yeah. So I did this on Saturday, and it was the first time doing it on an e-bike. And so first of all, it was a bit easier, but also because I'm trying to manage battery, I was doing it on eco, and I realized just how much battery was being chewed through that section, because it doesn't feel that bad, but it is a lot of hills through there, and a lot of up that is sort of slow and continuous.
Yeah, well, you've kind of come down, as you say, on that rail trail all the way down the valley right to the river, and then you got to climb all the way back out again. So yeah, it's pretty much a lot of climbing until you hit, as I say, Gold Gully Road. There's a nice downhill just before there, but if you got the right mindset, I think with hills, you just kind of got to enjoy it. You got to embrace it and go, okay, this is okay. And there's always a downhill for every uphill. So, yeah, I quite like that bit of trail.
Yeah.
And the farmland's pretty idyllic.
Oh, yeah. And I think I've probably come across, 3 cars. I've done it 4 or 5 times, I reckon, that section. And, there's hardly ever any traffic.
And you mentioned pockets of karri, but then when you get to Gold Gully Road, that's when the real karri forest hits and you start feeling like you're in the Donnelly region. Is that a very significant moment for both of you riding that?
Yeah, because I think that's the character that you get now from basically all the way to there to Manjimup is mostly that kind of scenery, and it's just lovely.
Yeah, for me too. I mean, that's kind of... In my work life, I've spent an awful lot of time in the karri forest, so that's kind of a bit of a homecoming for me, hitting the karri. And, karri forest is pretty gorgeous any time. So it's cooler. There's a bit of a different climate once you're in those big trees. As the canopy kind of covers over you, and even if it's warmer, you've got some shade. So, yeah, it's good once you hit there, big trees. And like you say, Donovan, big trees for a long way to come.
Yep. And then on to Willow Springs campsite, which is a car camping spot along there, and they've also just installed a equine campsite for the Warren Blackwood Trail, which in the trails community, I suppose if you don't ride a horse, there's really not been much fanfare about that one at all. But they've got a little stable area for your horses and toilets and undercover area, so it seems like a nice area.
Yeah, well, that's kind of a second coming for the horses there at Willow Springs. I remember when I worked in Pemberton, probably would have been 20 years ago, we put in a yard there for horses, and there was a bit of a horse trail that went from there to Donnelly River. But it was used, but not lots of use, locals. But yeah, the Warren Blackwood stock route has, I think, I'm not sure that it's open at the moment. I still think there's some work they're doing, but some of the marking and some of the facilities, as you say, are already in.
Because you've often talked about riding that, because it looks like a nice route.
If you could not, I don't want to piss the horse people off either, because, they don't have a lot of trails themselves, but it does look really nice, and it would be nice to ride if it didn't ruffle too many feathers.
Yeah, look, I don't know the route well enough, but I think a lot of it is on open public roads.
Yeah, I think so.
So I think they're sharing it already.
And then from here into Donnelly River, what's the scenery like? Is it? I mean, you didn't really enjoy it going on the bib. You found it a bit convoluted. Is it the same on the Munda Biddi?
Because everything's so much faster, it doesn't matter. It's and also through here, there's just some exceptional single track. Really surprising, because you get off from from Willow Springs, you go into the forest, and then it's a very large section of this is single track, and it's quite technical in some spots and really nice.
Yeah, so you follow a great little stream along for a long way. One of the project managers, Nick, who still works for us up in the Midwest now, was responsible for that bit of trail, and it is a lovely bit of trail. Get a lot of sticks though. So whoever's responsible, whichever volunteer is responsible for that section, thank you, because I'm sure you have your work cut out for you. But it's a really nice section through there.
I noticed just how much it was up and down this time. I didn't really pay attention to it, but because I'm constantly thinking about the battery now, I noticed how much of it was up and then down and up and down, up and down. Because I was watching the estimator just change drastically in how much battery I had left.
Yeah, I don't have to worry about that. I just have to worry about how much of my legs is left until I get. I'm saving some for the hill after Donnelly. But yeah, it's a good section of trail, and as you say, it's a bit up and down, a bit twisty and turny, and I guess that's kind of a nice contrast to that first bit of road that you're
Definitely.
on. So you kind of spend that bit of time in nice open country, and then you're in very enclosed, like riding through a little tunnel. And it's that's what I really like about the Munda Biddi, is just so much variety, and you're not doing the same thing all day.
I think you said this on Facebook to someone as a comment about, you wouldn't want it to be single track all the way or roads all the way. And it's actually nice getting that mix, because the roads, it's not as you don't get drained of energy physically on those roads, but then some of these technical sections can be a lot more draining, but they're more interesting.
Yeah, and often when I speak to mountain bikers, they sort of say, Munda Biddi, there should be more single track. And if you're used to riding single track with maybe just your camelback on, then you'd go, yeah, that'd be great. But when you've got a loaded bike and you're riding 60 Ks or 40 Ks or 80 Ks or whatever, having fun on the single track's not the first thing that comes to mind. And it's not all that fun anyway. It's because your bike doesn't handle the same. And you kind of, I am anyway, often you want to kind of look after your gear. You don't want to really be hitting big jumps or breaking your pannier rack in your first part of your day or something. So it's nice to have the single track, but it's not really what the experience you're looking for on the Munda Biddi. Not for me anyway.
And sometimes it has the opportunity to become very overgrown, and if it's wet, that's not something you want first thing in the morning.
Yeah, well, I was in Margaret River last week, and Waterbush lived up to its name down there on a couple of sections of trail.
So Donnelly River, it always gets a glowing review from most trail users coming in on the bib and the Munda Biddi. Am I right in saying that it uses the same camping facilities as the Bibbulmun, those kind of little huts in the centre of town?
Well, it doesn't officially have a sign on it that says it is the way the Bibbulmun does, but I mean, it's for everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's a bit of everything there. I mean, there's the bunkhouse, and then they've got the little the houses, but there's also, I'm not sure what they call them, they're like little apartments.
Yeah, they've got a strange name for it. There's 2 rooms that are like that are part of that big, massive hall area.
Yeah, so I've stayed in, I think, all those different accommodation types when I've stopped there, and they're all good. It's nice it's beautiful if you've been camping for a while to come in and have a shower, and and the coffee's always good there, and the carrot cake's always awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So and the wildlife, people always rave about the wildlife. If you're kind of new to Australia, then you see the international visitors just lap it up with the kangaroos and emus wanting to come out and steal your hamburger or whatever out of your hand out the front of the shop.
Yeah, they're not shy, and it's one of those things that that's what you expect when you come to Australia, but it's really only in Donnelly River.
That's right. Yeah,
there's emus walking around the streets.
We met a Bibbulmun track hiker who was from the US, and she had done the Appalachian Trail.
Yep.
And she came to do the Bibbulmun track afterwards, and she said that was one of her favourite memories of the whole trail. Every time I share a photo of Donnelly River, she's like, "Oh, Donnelly River, I love that place."
Yeah, and look, it's got a lovely feeling about it as well. The history's told pretty well there now. There's some new signs the last time I was there that had been put up around town, telling a little bit about the history of the mill and the people who lived there. So that was nice too. Nice to see.
Mm. And also the King Carry is there, because I think in a previous episode I mentioned collecting the 4 or 5 kings.
Yes.
And you can collect a King Carry just before you reach Donnelly River.
Yes. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. I did have it in my notes.
A small detour uphill.
Yeah.
So leaving Donnelly River, it kind of follows vehicle tracks towards kind of Yanmar Brook area and where the Bibbulmun kind of goes as well. When I was walking the Bibbulmun, I saw evidence of Munda Biddi riders using that because it looks like more interesting single trail than probably what they get.
Yeah, there's a couple of bits there where it's easy to take the wrong turn as well. So there's a bit where the 2 share a vehicle track and then one turns off to the left, and I think the bib track keeps going straight ahead. And I know I've gone barrelling along there for a couple of 100 metres before I've realised I'm on the wrong track. So it wouldn't surprise me if that's happened to people. But you kind of up and down, in and out, a little bit of different tracks. It's quite nice in through there. There's a couple of big creek crossings as well before you get to One Tree Bridge.
So when I went through, they're putting in a gauging station, I think, as part of the Donnelly River thing, and so the trail, when I did it last year along the river, I think it's an old rail trail that goes along Yanmar Creek, and that's now been bulldozed and widened, and it used to reach sort of like a dead end, and then the Munda Biddi just very steeply rises up.
I know that spot.
Yeah, because it's a surprise. You're like, oh, that was pretty steep. And at that spot now, it continues on along the creek, and it didn't when I did it last year.
Okay, well, if it takes that very steep bit out, I'm happy with that.
No, it doesn't take the steep bit out, unfortunately.
And it'll still dam the Donnelly, which is not a good thing.
Mm.
So then you've got kind of old rail trail off to One Tree Bridge, and that's another kind of significant moment because you get that high bit above the Donnelly, don't you?
Yeah, so all that single track that's getting to One Tree Bridge is just awesome.
Yeah.
I said to Mark and a few other friends when I came off the track on Saturday, I said, it wasn't as good as I remembered it. It was better because this bit was just so awesome.
Oh, that's good.
Absolutely loved it. And also there was, leading up to One Tree Bridge, there was an area that had been prescribed burnt, I think last year or the year before.
Yep.
And it's looking a lot better now. Okay. I mean, I think the good thing about Carry is it recovers fairly quickly.
Yeah, I think the conditions in Carry Forest can be a bit kinder too. The window sometimes is it can be tricky, but there's a lot more moisture around for longer. But yeah, I think it was a couple of years ago. There would have probably been a lot of fungi around last weekend.
Yes, there was.
When I was away last week, it was just everywhere all of a sudden after that bit of rain. And that's amazing in the Carry Forest. There's just such variety.
Yeah, I think that was one of the things that made it that bit more special was just the amount of fungi through there, and because it's been quite wet as well, just a lot of them just coming up along the trail.
Yeah,
It was
it's awesome.
I know the answer for you, Don, but Rod, do you actually stop and take a closer look at the fungi or the wildflowers in your riding?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. I spent 20 years as a ranger, and a lot of that time, a big part of my role was nature conservation, and really that's still how I view my job. That part, what I kind of get up in the morning for is to turn more people on to spending time out in the bush, trying to create connections that make them care about those places. And it's all about being out there and finding out what's there and looking at all the stuff that's flowering and all the fungi that's out and traces of whatever animals have been around. So I spend a lot of time stopping and taking photos and just checking stuff out.
I did stop. I did stop to have a look. Yeah.
So I thought with your new e-bike you would be too concerned about range to actually stop, and you're not one to admire the details usually.
So the ones that were a bit more unusual, I did stop, because if I've seen them, there's heaps that you see every winter that are fairly ordinary, but you always see something that's really strange and bizarre, and I saw a few that I stopped to have a look at.
Magic, maybe.
Maybe. And also I will say, crucially, I knew that I would get into Manjimup with enough battery because it was only 84 Ks or something.
Okay. So One Tree Bridge, it used to be an old timber bridge. It's now been replaced, but the remnants of one side is still there. And this is where you cross the Donnelly onto the other side and up not a big hill to start with, but you see where the billman goes and you kind of get a bit sad.
Yeah, it seems a bit cruel, that little hill that you go up first. Do you know why that is?
I'm not really sure, but it's probably because the bit of track that the billman takes, they don't want to share that with the walkers. But yeah, I'm not sure why you have to go up that first steep bit.
Yeah, because immediately you're down again.
Yeah. There's a lot of those, though, on the Munda Biddi where you go, why did that happen? And there's a few of them now where I go, I'm not doing that. I'm going that way.
Yeah, we had a friend who did it, and he found, I think he picked the wrong time of year. He did it in March, and he gave up because there was too many of those, and the pea gravel just killed him in the hills. Yeah,
well, pea gravel in March is never going to be good. But yeah, look, sometimes a lot of the route planning was about keeping people off roads as much as possible, and so you sometimes have these bits where you're going along a perfectly good road and you duck off into the bush and you do a route for 3 or 4 or 5 Ks, and then you come back out 2 Ks along the road that you were on. And some of those, if I've ridden it once, I go, okay, I've done that bit, I'm not going to ride that next time.
Yeah, I mean, you do join back with the billman along the Donnelly, and it always just has like an air of the Shire to me. There's like a little road along a river, the noise and the trees and the carry forest through there. It's just very idyllic.
Yeah.
But then you hit that just cruel hill going up to the campsite.
Yeah, I know what you mean about that that valley there, and I think it's the casuarina really softens the whole feel of it as well. So you've got the casuarina needles, which give it a kind of different quality. But yeah, the Carterburner Hill, or the mini Alpe d'Huez of the Munda Biddi Trail.
Yep.
The land of many switchbacks. We should actually come up with our own little slogan for that. I'm not sure how many switchbacks there are, but there's an awful lot.
Yeah.
I'm sure someone's given it a funny Strava name.
And it's the thing that I always think is the killer is you get that switchback and then you go up along the vehicle track and then there's more switchbacks. You think, oh, I'm done. No.
No, they never seem to end. In fact, I think I had my worst mishap on the Munda Biddi going up there one time. You don't get any speed up, but somehow I managed to put a stick through a spoke and snap a spoke, and then had to ride up with a wobbly wheel all the way, which was not a lot of fun. Yeah. But yeah, it's good test, I suppose, and gets you to a lovely campsite.
And you mentioned there was excellent carry forest you compared to Boren up there.
There's this great bit along the second lot of ascending after you pass the spotted gums, and I just sort of turned around and I saw all the carry forest, and it was just because of how steep the slope is, it just looks outstanding. So that was a really nice, just bit of pocket of forest there. Yeah.
And the campsite is actually, it's in Forester's Wood, which I believe is an old testing bed for forestry use. Is that right?
Look, I don't know all the history of Forester's Wood, but as I know, when I was in Pemberton, there was a bunch of really committed foresters who were keen to develop that area and see it protected. And so I think the land use previously, it must have been an old farm or something, and so it was added and protected as part of the surrounding reserve or state forest system there. But yeah, great to have the campsite perched up on top of the hill there. It's a really nice spot. The climb's almost worth it.
Yeah. I think I referred to it as being the Blackwood of the Munda Biddi in terms of the way it is in the valley. And doing it this time, both, the climb was easy because I was on an e-bike. But then when I got there, the view was outstanding because the autumn leaves in the valley just looked so much better than when I did it in September or August that I did it last time. Yeah, really awesome. I would love to camp there, but the problem is I feel this, as you said about spacing, it just feels like, why not just go to Manjimup?
Yeah, and that's been my experience too. So usually I've done the kind of Donnelly Mill to Manjimup. Carterburn is a nice lunch stop or afternoon tea or morning tea or whatever. So yeah, but lots of people do camp there. Everyone has a different itinerary, and sometimes people are doing crazy number of kilometres and it fits in perfectly with whatever crazy itinerary they're running.
Yeah, planning mine at the moment. I'm fiddling around with this section, but I think I'm going to skip this campsite and go straight into Manjimup.
Yeah,
extra 20k's are just too enticing.
Yeah.
You don't want to underestimate that last 20k's though into town. It's while it kind of looks easy, there's a few hills and there's some beautiful forest to come through on the way into town. But yeah, it's kind of at the end of a longish day, well, longish for me anyway. It can be a bit wearing. Once you get to Dean Mill, you're pretty happy.
So that brings us on to the final kind of leg of this this map, and that is onto Manjimup. So I believe there's a bit of cleared plantation when you first did it. Is it still the case? Have they replanted yet?
They have put blue gums in, and they've grown fairly quickly.
That's good.
It doesn't look like you saw the photo. It was cleared completely when I was there in September or August last year, and it looks like it has grown pretty quickly.
That's good.
Yeah,
beautiful soil and very reliable rainfall all through that country. So yeah, stuff's going to grow very fast, whatever's planted through there. But you got some really beautiful old railway formations that you follow on this section. Few up and downs, as I said. There's a couple of fantastic descents through big forest before you jump onto those railway lines. And every time I've been on this section, there's those rail lines or old formations follow up creek lines. It's a good, reliable place to see tiger snakes. So if you like those, or if you don't, look out for them. There's a couple of spots where you can almost be guaranteed of seeing them. And this one between this hut and Manjimup, I think I've seen one every time.
I'll be on the lookout. I'm hoping they're still sleeping in August.
Yeah, probably.
Although that's the worst time to see them if you do see them.
I'll
No,
probably
you won't
just
see
run
them.
them over. You actually said there was some lovely Jarrah forest through here.
Yeah, there's some nice Jarrah forest through here. Yeah, not too burnt, it looks acceptable.
It's old, yeah. And then you head into a watercorp area where the forest is allowed to grow and the kind of single track, very nice riding.
Well, so before that, there's this turn off at Dentata Road, and when I did it the first time, I took the turn off as you're supposed to, and then you dip down at like what's probably like a small stream, and then you immediately turn left. And I didn't do that. I missed it the first time. So this time I was like, I'm going to keep an eye out and not miss this turn off. And riding that section was awesome. Like that whole section through there, just the forest is really beautiful. And I was really sad to have missed it the first time, but glad to not missed it this time.
Yeah, I think that part is an old tramway.
Okay.
Yeah, or rail, probably timber tramway or railway. Yeah, but that is a great section through there, and yeah, nice climbing, or the riding's not too hard. It's quite pretty.
Yeah. And you reach Dean Mill, which is sort of like Jarrahwood, except people still live and work there.
Yeah.
And then you follow the Dean Mill Heritage Trail all the way into town. It's a nice finish to the day.
Yeah, I mean, Dean Mill is probably a bit more vibrant than Jarrahwood, I'd reckon. The mill there was big timber mill operating until fairly recently. And there's still, as you say, a pretty large number of people who live there. Very passionately supported football club, Dean Mill, home of John Todd. And yeah, then the rail trail into Manjimup is nice and easy. And you can just hoot along there. Another good place for tiger snakes, though, because you've got some swampy land all the way along that section, haven't you?
Yeah. That whole section is so easy that I was exceeding the speed limiter on the e-bike the whole way. It was just all on my own steam because it was so easy. Yeah.
And you've got the highlight of, I think it's the, is it the Croatian club?
Yeah, it's just like this really cool building randomly along the track.
Looks kind of vaguely East German kind of brutalist type architecture out in the middle of nowhere. So it's kind of a nice spot to take a photo there. Look out for that one.
And Manjimup is a track town. It's obviously one of the bigger ones on the track. What are you guys' thoughts on the town?
I really like Manjimup. I think it's actually getting, like, from what it was 5 years ago, I think it's really improved. Like, we noticed that whole area has become, first of all, there's a lot more visitors recently, I think maybe because of post-COVID, but also that the towns have sort of risen to the challenge. So there's a lot more stores, there's good restaurants and things like that in town to kind of make people want to come back and visit. So Alyssa the other day came to, she went to pick me up and she went to a lot of the stores in town and had a really good time there. Tall Timbers is a really good place there.
Awesome place. The guys there, I mean, you'd never know that's the old Manjimup chainsaw shop.
Oh, really?
Which they turned into a magnificent restaurant and bar, and yeah, that's always a highlight for me to head for there. But as you say, there's other good restaurants in town, and I think probably over the last 10 years, Manji's really lifted its game, and the nature of the town has changed. I think that whole region has got a lot more focus on their agriculture and their southern food, southern forests, produce kind of brand. And that's kind of really come forward as timber's kind of dropped away as their mainstay for a lot of employment. Really big changes. Truffles are huge there now. Cherries have always been pretty big, but lots of other good fruit and veg grown in that area. And it's great in the restaurants. They've all got good fresh stuff. The stores are good. Yeah. Very friendly place too, I found, Manjimup.
Yeah, I used to feel that Manjimup was a town you drive through to go to Pemberton, but now I actually want to go to Manjimup. So it's really, that's a big change.
They'll love to hear that.
Yeah.
They'll love to hear that, because I think they have put a lot of effort into, to change their town. All the townscaping that was done on the main street through where the highway goes, and they've really lifted the whole place. I think it's Southern Coffee Roasters for coffee. Tip top.
Yeah.
Good. I'll take note of that. And what did they build on I think it's the north side of town? Is it a new playground or is it a new museum?
Museum.
Yeah. I was quite impressed last time I was there seeing that.
Yeah, it's kind of. I don't know the whole story, but somehow they ended up with the electricity museum. I thought that might have gone to Collie, but anyway, it's in Manjimup, and. It's supposed to be great. I haven't gone in and had a look, but I've seen some photos of the place and the inside, and it looks really well done.
Isn't the visitor centre moved to
there as well? I think the visitor centre's up there as well. It used to be the old Manjimup Timber Park, which kind of told the whole story, and a lot of that's still there as well. And then the electricity museum's there.
Maybe they'll give Collie the Carry Forest Museum or something as a trade-off. So, where do you guys rank this one in terms of the section to section or maps of the Munda Biddi? Is this one of the better ones?
Let's say right near the top.
Yeah, it's up there. It's a really good section. I'm probably biased about where my favourites are, but which are a bit further south. But yeah, it's lots of variety. There's some really good quality trail. You know, you've got that, as we talked about, their entry into the Karri Forest, which is always pretty special. Some great towns and people who are really supporting people out on trails. So yeah, it's up there. It's good.
I feel like this section of the track has probably some of the least compromised sections, in that town to town or town to hut, I don't feel like there's as much obvious compromise as, say, further up north. There's sections where there clearly is compromise, like near Lake Brockman. There's a huge compromise north of there. And further south as well, like from Northcliffe to Uricata, there's that long, just continuous road section that I feel sort of makes Northcliffe to Walpole a bit less interesting than it could be. Whereas this section, there's no day where I think, oh, this is terrible.
Yeah, and you're right. There are places along or in the bush where there are compromises because you've got mining, water catchment, dieback, other constraints that you can't put a trail through. So here there's probably less of those, and it does allow you to show the full character of the place that you're riding through. But there's some interesting things to see. I mean, the old mill at Donnelly is fantastic just to look around at. So yeah, good section, probably in the upper echelons of the Munda Biddi rankings.
What would be your favourite map section?
Definitely around Walpole.
Yeah.
Probably from... Although some people don't like that middle road heading north, I reckon probably Walpole or just before Walpole out to that next hut I really like. I kind of like the section from Collie through to Donnybrook too, because where you come out off the Scarp is pretty cool. But yeah, once anywhere in the Karri or Tingle Forest, I'm pretty happy. The next section, which guys will talk about another time, is pretty good too, from Manjimup down to Pemberton. Most of that feels downhill as well, I reckon.
And while we've got you on, Rod, one of the things you like to do is rate the Parmesanas along the trail.
Yes.
Can you give us some insight into the best Parmies on the trail?
Okay, well, for this section, for a start, the Nannup Parmesana is pretty good. It's
at the hotel.
At the hotel, yeah. That's the only place you can get them. Well,
okay.
I think it's the only place in
Noted.
Nannup you're probably going to get one. So yeah, they're probably, I'd say, in about the 7 rating for the, chips are pretty good. Palmy's not too bad. The pub's good in itself. Probably the best at the moment in the Parmigiana rankings is the Dwelling Up Hotel.
Yeah.
I think that's just for the all-round performance of the Parmigiana, but you got a proper chicken breast fillet, good chips, nice sauce, not too much.
That would explain it. I was there on Saturday and we got there and they said it was an hour's wait for food, so it must be good Parmies.
Yeah, well, there's some things to talk about there maybe in the future with just the success of trail towns. I think the next 5 years are really, really exciting for Western Australia and trails. It's we've got a government that's really committed to investing. We've got towns and local governments and businesses that are excited. And we've got so many people wanting to do trails, thanks to guys like you and all the other kind of vibe that's going on around trails. We're growing a great community. So, next 5 years is super exciting.
Actually, one question I did have for you, being part of the Visitor Services Department within DBCA, are you seeing kind of a reaction now to COVID and people spending more time within WA that would normally go elsewhere? Is there a reaction to small towns and trail communities to try to want to increase their offering in the next few years?
Yeah, definitely there's a reaction. So there's a reaction in people wanting to travel in Western Australia because they can't go anywhere else. but that is really patchy. So you can't apply a one-size-fits-all to this. Some places are so busy they just can't take any more and they kind of just want to rest. Other places are really still suffering. So you see those places that rely on national and international travellers, locations like the Pinnacles at Nambung, that's a kind of a one-time visit place often, and they're probably 60% down. Somewhere like Kalbarri, before the cyclone hit, was probably 60% up. They've got some new features, the Skywalk. A place like Cape Range and Karajini are just, they're off the dial. Same at somewhere like William Bay, There's kind of this whole phenomenon that we're getting into in Western Australia, which we haven't seen much of before, which is over-tourism. And on a world scale, we're probably really only scratching the surface, but it's all the same drivers that you see everywhere around the world that bring that. And one of those things is, the Instagram popularity of a place. It's that one shot that people want to travel for, which is kind of sad because, they drive in, want to take the photo and drive out again when there's so much more to see. So, long way of saying, there's a lot more people getting out into parks. I think we've had a 130% increase in park pass sales. Our campgrounds where you can book are pretty much full all the time for most of them. Kimberley is one of those places that's suffering and has really suffered in the last year. So it'll be interesting to see what this season does. Probably a lot more people in Western Australia planning their trip up there. I hope they are. And the one thing that's really suffered in parks and in that whole kind of park tourism ecosystem is the tour operators. They rely on the national, international visitors to a large extent. So if you're out there and you're visiting the park, the best thing you can do for local tourism, apart from spending your money in the shops and accommodation, is take a tour in your own backyard. You'll probably learn something new, and it's fantastic. The operators will love you for it, and you will learn something new.
Definitely. We did one of the tours when they had those vouchers. We did the tour to the Jarrahwood dunes.
Oh, yeah, great with Graham.
Yeah, and I've never done it before because I've not trusted my car to survive the sand, and it was definitely worth doing. I definitely would recommend that to people because it was awesome. A fantastic experience and such a different, bizarrely different area.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that's a fantastic place, the Jarrahwood dunes, and really quite amazing. It is like a different world there.
And do you see kind of post-COVID, I mean, they're talking about 2022 as international travel, but that'll probably push out a little bit. Do you think the impact people seeing WA more often will last, or do you think it'll kind of decline a little bit?
Yeah, look, I think it's going to be long enough that some of the habits will stick and people will find some new favourite places. But inevitably people are going to want to do the things they used to do as well. And will probably want to travel. But that will be the same from people who want to travel to Western Australia as well. So I think while some local people might want to go elsewhere, we're going to have a whole bunch of new people who are going to want to come to WA. And we're going to have some great things to show them and some awesome new trail offerings.
Yeah, because I've been watching the World Surf League event at Margaret River over the last couple of weeks, and they've got the ads for Western Australia, but it's kind of sad because no one can really come and see it, and the commentators and the surfers all rave about the area because of you got great surf, you got great trails. I love the forests, the towns, but it's kind of a missed opportunity.
Yeah, well, I guess they've got to keep the profile up even when you can't visit. Kind of create that expectation and dreaming phase. So I know the tourism marketers talk about that dreaming phase of where you're dreaming to go next is kind of pretty important. So I think there's just planting that little seed at the moment. One of the cool things is that for what we're interested in the trail space is that Tourism WA are also now really interested. So they've picked up that trails are a big thing for tourism. So they're working on some specific tourism marketing for trails. So that'll be great to see that roll out hopefully in the next year or so as well.
All right, well, thanks, Rod, for coming in and sparing some time for us. It's been a bit too long between drinks.
Yes.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah.
Anytime.
Cool. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, everyone, for listening. If you've enjoyed this episode or any other episode of Real Trail Talk, then please rate us on whatever platform you're currently listening to us on. Ratings really help us to reach an audience, especially those who are looking to learn about the outdoors in Western Australia and Australia in general. If you had any questions or suggestions for future episodes, you can email us at realtrailtalk@gmail.com or contact us through our social media channels. Thanks again, and stay tuned for our next episode.